I'm going to start over so that the people who are watching this from home can hear. Welcome. The Northfield Township Land Preservation Committee is pleased and honored to welcome you here tonight to talk about investing in our community through preservation of our precious resource, our land. I want to thank the members of the Northfield Township Board for supporting land preservation by appointing this committee. Throughout history, the men and women of Northfield Township have lived off the land. Although many residents now work elsewhere and come home to Northfield Township to relax, recreate, and raise their families, the tradition of living off the land continues to be strong. We have many active commercial farms. These farms represent a significant percentage of Northfield Township's economy. We have many part-time farmers as well. These also add tremendously to our economy. While these independently owned businesses aren't lined up like shops in a downtown or factories in an industrial park, they're an important piece of what's going on here in Northfield Township, both economically and socially. Over 175 studies have shown that farmland provides more than it takes in taxes. Farmland also provides green infrastructure. That means that it cleans the air, it provides flood protection, it filters groundwater, it provides wildlife a place to live and reproduce. In Northfield Township, our residents enjoy pure water, clean air, and beautiful views. Many also enjoy hiking, biking, and hunting. And even though everyone likes to complain about traffic, there really isn't much unless an accident happens on the freeway. The land is an integral part of our community, our economy, and our way of life. Tonight, the Land Preservation Committee has invited you here to talk with people who have first-hand experience with land preservation. I'm calling them our resource people. I'm going to give a short explanatory presentation on easements and what is happening in Washtenaw County, and after that, I will introduce our resource people. I ask that you hang on to any questions you have until after we have made all of the introductions. After the introductions, the resource people are going to spread out around the room, and then we hope that you will seek out those with whom you would like to speak. We are hoping that smaller conversations will be more useful to everybody than a panel discussion tonight. Also, we have a sign-up sheet out in the lobby. I think most people have signed in. If you will leave us your contact information, we will make sure that we keep you up to date on what's going on. And if you haven't noticed, we have quite a few refreshments, and we hope that you'll make yourselves comfortable and enjoy them. So this is an overview of land preservation. It was created by our committee, mostly by David Perry, to help explain to the board and now to you a little bit more about land preservation. What is land preservation? Land preservation is a way to protect both natural areas and farmland from other uses. Lands can be permanently preserved in their current natural or agricultural state. Northfield Township resident surveys have consistently indicated that preserving the rural character of the township is a high priority. Natural areas are part of the green infrastructure, providing services such as groundwater regeneration and wildlife protection. Agricultural land produces food for local, national, and international consumption and income. How can land be preserved? A landowner could donate their land, or they could donate their right to develop their land. Such a donation could be made to an organization such as Legacy Land Conservancy. The donation would be tax deductible, and that depends solely on the landowner's generosity and their ability to be generous. Another way is purchase of land outright. Townships would usually provide part of the total land cost. Matching funds can be provided by various resources, federal, state, county, or the Ann Arbor Greenbelt. There's another way. It's called purchase of development rights, or sometimes people say the landowner sells a conservation easement. Matching funds, usually 2 or 3 partners pay the landowner. The landowner continues to own and use the property. They must farm it or keep the land in a natural state. It's covered by contract, and so the contract spells out everything that the landowner can and cannot do with the property. The landowner can sell the land, it would sell at agricultural value then. Current and future owners have to abide by the conservation easement, which means that they have to keep the land in a natural or agricultural state. And the land stays on the tax rolls, so the landowner continues to pay taxes on that land. How are lands selected for preservation? In most programs, larger parcels are preferred, 20 or more acres. Lands adjacent to existing preserved lands are often very favorable. Desirable natural features such as forests, wetlands, and views help. Good agricultural soils. We've got a lot of those in Washtenaw County. And importantly, the landowners must agree to participate in the program. Washtenaw County has created tools to help in the decision making. We've put copies of maps out in the lobby, and you're welcome to take the maps home. They're lots of fun to look at, and they have a lot of really useful information. Where is land being preserved? Local land preservation programs are active in Washtenaw County, countywide, the City of Ann Arbor Greenbelt, Webster Township, Pittsfield Township, Scioto Township, Salem Township, Ann Arbor Township, and I understand also now Augusta Township has a program. How is land preservation funded? Voters in the neighboring communities have passed millages to fund land preservation. Matching funds are typically used to purchase land or development rights. Townships usually provide some funding to acquire matching funds. And in Webster Township, we've heard that $1 that for every dollar that Webster Township invests of their money, they've gotten $5 in value back. How do communities start? They educate themselves, the landowners, the residents, identify funding resources, identify potential farmland and natural areas to preserve, and then work with the landowners who are interested in participating. There is a Washtenaw County park that's new called Whitmore Lake Preserve. That's up by the lake. And then here are some pictures of agricultural lands within the township. Okay, now we're going to ask Chris Olson of the Huron River Watershed Council. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what she does.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. There's a lot of you here. I didn't realize. That's really great. It's really good to see. So I work at the Huron River Watershed Council, and we are a council of governments and residents and businesses. And our mission is to protect the Huron River, its tributaries, and all the land that flows into the river. So the river doesn't flow through Northfield Township, but Horseshoe Creek does, and parts of Davis Creek too, and parts of Fleming Creek. So those all go into the Huron, and so that's why Northfield Township is very important to us. And the reason why the Huron River is a beautiful river and the cleanest urban river in Michigan is because we still have all of these rural landscapes and natural areas that are allowing water to infiltrate, and it's providing the ecological services that Sue mentioned. So the way I'm going to be telling you our interest in land use protection and agricultural protection is by showing you some materials that I'll be showing you people who come and visit me in my area. So the things that Sue talked about in terms of land and its importance to water quality, we have a new booklet out that goes over all of those things and goes over the importance of local governments in that protection. So I'll be showing this off over at my area. We actually have some data to share about the importance of natural features, woodlands, wetlands, waterways, to the economy of the area. So we just put out this study that studied the economic benefits of the Huron River. I forgot the number, of course, but it's something like $5 billion in worth that the Huron River, just the area of the main stem of the Huron River, provides in the economy, and also the economic, not just the economic benefits of like tourism and paddling, what people pay for fishing licenses and things like that, but the economic benefits of flood protection, cleaning up polluted waters, air quality, those kinds of things, you can put an economic price on those. And this just covers the parts of the natural features that are along the main stem. And so we haven't even done a study yet of the whole, everything that flows into the river. So your natural features, the natural features of all the communities that are in the Huron River watershed, all 67 different townships, are helping to keep the river clean so that we can enjoy paddling and fishing and swimming. This is another report that we have that also talks about the importance of land use protection, and this is Horseshoe Creek, which is what mostly flows through Northfield Township. We have creek shed reports on all of the creeks now, so you can also look into that. Now, specifically land protection related, we actually have a program where we're working with communities to do land protection, to help communities develop campaigns for land protection. And so I'm happy to say that we're willing to offer staff time to help Northfield Township and other townships do this kind of thing and look into ways to protect land. And so I can talk about that. Now, another way that we help communities protect land is first figure out where that land is. And so we have a mapping program as well. Sue showed you the Washtenaw County's map on her slideshow, but we have a similar mapping program. And we also go out and do field assessments of properties, natural area properties. And so I'll have some more information about that. We have a couple of folks here who have had field assessments done on their properties. And they are also in the process of going through some land protection deals. So that helps. That's just something that gives you more information about the land, and it helps land protection agencies to make decisions about how to protect that land. And we also have maps as well of the natural features and natural areas in the township. And so that's why we're involved in land protection, and we work in partnership with all of the other folks that you're going to be hearing from tonight as well. So I'm very happy to be here.
Next up, we have Ginny Rocio and Rosie Paul Donaldson from Washtenaw County Parks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jenny Rocio, and this is my colleague here, Rosie. So we'll be over here in the corner after everyone speaks. We are with Washtenaw County Parks, and we oversee the Natural Area Preservation Program. Chris Olson is also on our Natural Area Technical Advisory Committee. So the NAP program is a millage-approved and funded program. It was first passed in 2000. It's a 10-year, 0.25 mil, and it was renewed in 2010, so we'll be going back for a renewal hopefully in 2020. So over the first 17 years of the program, we've protected in conservation easements almost 2,800 acres, and we have about almost 4,000 acres in ownership. As Sue mentioned at the beginning, Whitmore Lake Preserve that's here in Northfield Township, that's a piece of property that we actually own outright. We have trails there, we have a parking lot, it is open to the public, and we have stewardship staff that manages that. The conservation easements are another portion of what we do, and that's primarily on agricultural land, some natural areas as well, but that remains in private ownership. So as Sue mentioned some of this, the easement properties do remain on the tax rolls, and basically, the easement just spells out that it should be maintained in open space, farmland, protecting those natural areas. We actually hold 18 easements in those townships, but we've also contributed to other partner-led programs. So there are several township-funded programs here in the county. And so oftentimes we'll work together either with the Greenbelt or township, us. Sometimes it's federal program as well. 3 or 4 of us might be working together to get a project completed. So this just kind of looks at our funding, and this is primarily for like the partner-led program or projects. So we might provide anywhere from 11 to 80% of the purchase price. It really varies, but then it's cobbled together through other partners and other sources of funding. But this is a way that if there is a program here in Northfield Township that we could partner and work with you all. So we have done 17 partner-led easements in 7 different townships. And again, we have a larger map of this, but this is a project that Rosie worked on for us. It's trying to identify those critical high-quality natural areas remaining, as well as agricultural land in the township. And so that's one way that we're looking at really focusing our efforts and being strategic about where we can do some conservation. So we look forward to talking to you and answering any questions. We have some brochures about our program. We have contact information for us. So if you're interested, if you are a landowner here and interested in preserving your land, we'd be happy to talk to you. There's a couple folks here that I worked with in the past as well, so they can speak for the landowner's perspective as well.
Thank you. And then Ruth Thornton from the Ann Arbor Greenbelt Commission is going to talk a bit about what she does.
Thank you. Hopefully this will work. Hi everybody, I'm Ruth Thornton. I'm with the Ann Arbor Greenbelt. And just to give you a quick history of the Greenbelt program. So the Greenbelt District encompasses portions of 8 townships around Ann Arbor. And it started with a ballot initiative in 2003 in which the voters of Ann Arbor overwhelmingly voted to fund this program. It's a 0.5 millage to support the land protection, both for public parks and city-owned parks within the city limits of Ann Arbor, but that also to protect land in the Greenbelt District in portions of those 8 townships. So we have protected 5,100 acres to date in the Greenbelt District in 55 projects, so it's been going really well for us. And in Northfield Township, we've completed 7 projects to date, just over 600 acres. And 6 of those projects were easements, and then one is we helped the county protect Northfield's woods as well, so that's publicly accessible and open to the public for their use. And as I mentioned, so the millage funds go 2/3 to fund the purchase of development rights or conservation easements with the Greenbelt districts, and then also towards purchases of parks within the Ann Arbor city limits. And so far, we have added 98 acres to the city's park system, so that's also been going very strongly in the past 13 years. It's a 30-year millage, so the millage will go till 2034. So far, the City Council prioritizes projects just like other people have talked about that have matching funds, where we have partners to work with. So it's not only the Greenbelt District funding those projects, but also we work with the county, we work with federal funds to work with partners to put those projects on the land and to make them successful. And so far, so the benefits that we have found is it makes land close to Ann Arbor more affordable for farmers. It really brings down the purchase price of that land. Land values have been going up in recent years, and it really helps to put the conservation easement on the land. It reduces the value of the land for those farmers, but it also makes it more affordable for buyers to buy the land and to be able to farm close to Ann Arbor and close to those city limits where the land values have been going up quite a bit again in recent years. And it also provides a local food supply. So those farmers are close to Ann Arbor, and they're close to the farmers market, to local restaurants and other local markets where they can sell their goods. So that's a real benefit to the local community as well. Additionally, it's also more open space and farmland close to city limits. So it really preserves that feeling that you can leave the city and you're right outside in the middle of nowhere. You have beautiful farm lanes, you have beautiful large trees surrounding the city. And that's one of the reasons that the voters of Ann Arbor voted for the millage, is to preserve that feeling of that real rural landscape in the area. Also, because of that, there's natural resource benefits, and that's something that Chris was talking about. So you have the wildlife habitat, you have protection of water sources and water quality and soil quality as well. So the Greenbelt Strategic Plan that started in 2013 has identified 4 different focus areas for the Greenbelt program, and that is building large blocks of farmland. We're trying to get together blocks of about 1,000 acres or larger of contiguous areas of farmland or open space in these blocks. And we've been working pretty well to get that done. And also open space protection, especially in the Huron River watershed and viewshed. So that's, again, that water quality component that we're trying to protect. To leverage funds from partners and other sources, we've been pretty successful in the past. So City Council really places a lot of importance on getting those matching funds from partners and always having at least one partner that we work with to get these projects done. And so far, we've averaged just over 50% of the funds for these projects from other sources. So we've really been pretty successful in that. Part of that, too, is for agricultural land easements. So those are those easements where the farmer can continue farming. We've been really successful in getting federal funds for those. So that has also been a very important partner for the program to date. And then the fourth focus area that was in the strategic plan is for outreach and education about the program. So that's part of the reason why I'm here today, to let people know what the program is about and how they can be a part of the program and how we can help make these projects happen. And that's all I had for right now. Thanks. And I'll be over there in that corner if you have any questions for me. I also have some maps outside. So there's a couple of maps of the Greenbelt District and some brochures with information about us and business cards for me. So if you don't get to talk to me today, then you can give me a call afterwards.
Thank you. Next, Barry Lonick, Land Preservation Consultant, staff to Webster, Scioto, and Ann Arbor Townships programs, is going to speak. And I also want to say especially thank you. Barry has helped our committee a lot in gathering information and in contacting people who have been helpful.
You're welcome, Sue. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. So a little bit of background history on me. I ran what's now called the Legacy Land Conservancy. Doug Koop is here. He's the executive director now. I was the executive director some years ago. Ran the organization for about 10 years. And one of the things that I frequently heard from landowners back in those days was, especially farm landowners, I love my property. I don't want to see it get developed. I can't donate the land or donate the development rights to that land. It's my retirement account. I need to cash out on that at some point. And a number of people, including myself, did some research over the years and found that there were programs in other parts of the country, not in Michigan at that point, or actually there was one in Michigan, that would actually raise public funds to buy land and buy conservation easements on properties. And so starting in the late 1990s, we began advocating for those kinds of programs to come here to Washtenaw County. We famously lost our first campaign in 1998, but came back in 2000 with the Natural Area Preservation Program that's now operated by Ginny and Washtenaw County Parks for a 10-year millage. Had overwhelming support from the public on that. And then following up, as Ruth mentioned a moment ago, with the Greenbelt program in 2003, and also Ann Arbor Township's program in 2003. Following suit on that was Scioto Township's first millage, which was in 2004, and then Webster Township in 2005. And so now we have 6 funded programs here in Washtenaw County, several of which, the Greenbelt program and Washtenaw County Parks Natural Areas program, that function here in at least part of Northfield Township. And then you also have what I think are a couple of great examples of successful township-funded programs immediately to your south in Ann Arbor Township and immediately to your west in Webster Township. Webster's renewed its millage now twice. We did it for 5 years, and then 5 years, and then for 10 years. Scioto Township has passed an original 10-year millage, and then renewed that for another 10 years, so we're still in the midst of that. Ann Arbor Township's millage was for 20 years. And so all those programs have been functional now for quite some time. I've been staffing those programs. We've had tremendous success in preserving land, both privately owned conservation easement land and also publicly owned land in Scioto Township. And I hope that that's something that will come to Northfield Township here in the not too distant future. And I'd be happy to talk with you about that. I'll be over there next to the deer. Thanks.
All right, and last but not least is Doug Koop from Legacy Land Conservancy, and I appreciate you coming tonight, Doug.
Hey, yeah, last, everything they said. Legacy Land Conservancy, the name has been here since about 2006. The organization goes all the way back to about 1971 or 1972. Washtenaw Land Trust, when Barry was running it, Potawatomi Land Trust, there were some mergers and acquisitions to grow the organization. We're a little different than a government program. We operate as a charitable 501c3 nonprofit. 20 years ago, around the country, there were about 600 land trusts. Today, there are about 1,700 land trusts. We represent the charitable industry, which has grown tremendously over the last 20 years, and a lot of organizations were based on a community desire to protect their neighborhood, their community, their town, county, state. And that's the way it was done for many years. If a landowner wanted to protect their property, they were going to find a private land trust or a private conservancy to work with in order to establish these things that you've heard about, conservation easements. We would go out as an organization, we would find out what the value of that property was, we would find out what motivated that landowner to come talk to us, we would negotiate the deals and put on and develop this conservation easement, these agreements which establish how the land is going to be preserved or how it's going to be used forever, in perpetuity. And the reason we always talk about perpetuity is because what we do as an organization, as a charitable land trust, is we're working within an IRS code. And people were able to get charitable deductions for these development rights. So you heard a lot of people when we went out, would you donate, would you donate, would you donate? We were typically not in the business of raising money to pay people for their development rights. As Barry mentioned, prior to all the activity that was done here, Peninsula Township up in Grand Traverse County was the first township in the state to pass their own millage. I arrived up in the Traverse City area in 1994, and they had just passed the millage in 95. Overwhelming success. They renewed it again a couple of times. The people of the community had a vision for what they wanted to see, and they realized that there were a lot of landowners who were not in the position to just donate off their development rights. They were dealing with cherry farmers, and cherry prices would dip down to 2 cents a pound, and they would go up to 12 cents a pound, and they would go down to 5 cents a pound, and they would have freezes. And and so when you're talking with farmers who it's their life, it's their business, it's like, and the community said to them, well, we want you to protect that 100-acre farm that looks over Grand Traverse Bay. And it's like, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm rich, I'm poor. How, what do you expect? And they started to learn about some of the other programs around the country. Maryland had a very successful one. And they found out people would actually tax themselves to achieve this goal for their community of this vision, and say, well, if you can't donate it, we as a community will raise some money and we will pay you for that equity that you have in your land. We will provide this, we'll appraise that property, will determine that if you take off the development rights, it's worth a certain amount. And we as a community will put that forward. We're behind you. We want your farm to stay productive. We want those views to stay productive. We want to protect the water quality. So we're willing to take on that burden as a community and then identify where all those priority lands were, pass that, work with that. And so as private organizations, we have been involved in supporting those programs, doing, as Barry, sometimes we're part of the staff to help do that. We develop conservation easements. We work on how to monitor projects, because once you do this and you set an easement on a property, you need to go back once a year and make sure that it's being complied with. So there are a bunch of intricacies in setting up this program. But the thing that they all have in common, whether you're dealing with a private organization or you're dealing with the public bodies and the entities, you're expressing a community vision, and you're putting your will and you're putting your effort and you're putting your money behind making something happen. Because as Barry said, not everybody is in the position. Very few people are in the position to write off $500,000 $1 million, $1.5 million, you know, to go to somebody who's been working the land their whole life and say, why don't you just sign a conservation easement? It's $1 million. You don't really need it. Kids don't need it. Your grandkids don't need it. Just sign here. There are very few people who would do that. But if you can say, look, we'll compensate you for that interest because we as a community want to see this land protected. We want to see it open. We're willing to take on this burden and partner with you and work with you. Then everybody wins. So as a, again, private conservancy, we go out, work with individual landowners. Sometimes they work directly with us. Sometimes they don't like the government, believe it or not. They would prefer to work with a private organization. We can step in and figure out a way to do that. Sometimes we're just working with the county or the township or the greenbelt, and we're trying to figure out the best tool to make that happen. So sometimes we're working on behalf of the landowner. Sometimes it's just one big mess of a partnership. But at the end, we end up protecting a whole bunch of land. The Legacy Conservancy and its predecessors over 46 years. Now our portfolio is about 8,400 acres. It's about 3,600 acres of our own, and then there's a whole bunch of partnerships with the counties and the townships that we've assisted on. So in a sense, double counting. Some of Ginny's numbers are some of our numbers, some of Webster Township numbers, some of our numbers. We work together, and we figure out how to get this done. So we're around. We work both Washtenaw and Jackson County. So all the programs going on in Washtenaw, we look across the county line, we look at Jackson, we go, holy cow, what a lot of opportunity. So, but that, I will be over here, I can say, how do these conservation easements work? How does an appraisal work? What's monitoring? What's allowed? What's not allowed? How do you address oil and gas? How do you address, you know, timber harvest? How do you address all this stuff? Barry can answer it, I can answer it, Ginny can answer it, Ruth can answer it. A lot of people here can answer it, so we all have fun. We all kind of play in the sandbox together. So Chris can answer it too. I don't want to forget. So, but thank you.
Thank you. And before we break into small groups, I want to recognize Leah and Lori Malbatch are here tonight. They are landowners who have participated in selling a conservation easement, so they can give you some firsthand experience. And then I also want to recognize Lenore Zelenak. She's part of our committee. She's also the township treasurer, and Tom Bellinger is here. She is a township trustee. Oh, and Kathleen Manley is here also, and Marlene Chalkley are here too. Sorry about that, guys. I really do appreciate the township officials being here tonight. I appreciate all of you coming here and spending your time tonight to talk about land preservation. And with that, let's break into small groups. Thank you.